Hello students, a very warm welcome. So today what we will be starting with is civics, and we'll be taking up the chapter the democratic government. Okay, it's a very small chapter, a very interesting one, right? So let's start. Now students, historically, right, what was there before as the accepted means of governance was a monarchy, right? So we had the kings ruling, but now we have moved on from monarchy to a democracy, right? All over world, you have most of the countries, more than half of them. In fact, I think it'll be around 80 to 85% of them are a democratic government, right? So now we are moving worldwide, we're moving from a monarchy to a democratic form of government, right? Now, why is this happening, right? Why democracy? It is because people realize that their will matters, right? And the common people, the masses, the citizens, they play a very important role in the selection of their leaders, their representatives, right? And they also have a lot of different ways through which they can get their voice heard, through which they can participate, right? And have a say in what happens in the place where they live, right? So democracy comes from two words, two Greek words, demos and kratos, which means authority of the people. Okay, so demos is people and kratos is authority. So authority of the people. Now, therefore, democracy, students, is government of the people, right? And India has a representative form of government. Okay. Now, what are the silent features of our democracy? Right? Democracy has a couple of features. What are the silent features of democracy? Right? Now, in a democracy, people need to be well aware of the rights, duties, political happenings of the country. Right? You need to know what is happening. Only then will you be able to, have a proper say. For a citizen to participate, for someone who's not aware of, you won't be able to effectively participate, right? Next one is, it is essential that the government should have freedom to rule, and the opposition should have freedom to express their opinions, so government on one side, the ruling party, they need to be able to rule, they need to be able to implement measures. At the same time, people in the opposition should be free to speak out, right? If they think that something's going wrong, they should be free to express their opinion, because if any side is intolerant, right, if any side is not supportive, if they're like intolerant, it can destroy the structure of democracy, right, based on liberty and equality, based on freedom and equality. Now one side might say that this is just not happening, but the other side might feel that it is good, but you cannot crush any of the sides, right? So liberty and equality need to be given to everybody. Right? Now the third one is, political parties need to be disciplined and should work for national interest. This is very important. They need to remind themselves that they're working for the country. They're working on behalf of the national interest. So they need to be disciplined, and it's they get shouldn't get into malpractices or corruption, right? The national interest comes first. That's what the motto, political parties, all of them, and politicians, everyone should keep for themselves. Then what about the citizens, right? The citizens should accept the views and decisions of the government towards welfare of the society, and should be ready to give up self-interest for the same. So for example, if the government says that so and so needs to be done for the welfare of the country, we cannot be self-interested and say that I am not okay with it. We have to give up something as well. It's sacrifice. Only then we can have the proper growth that we deserve, right? So citizens also have their duties, the politicians, the political parties also have their own duties, right? The government as an institution has its own duties, and people need to be aware. Now the last one is public opinion. Now public opinion is very important, right? The government can and should never ignore the rights of the people. Public opinion paves way for social and political change. Now, because so public opinion, so for example, if the people are not happy, or if they are happy, so if they're not happy, they should have a say on how they want their government to run, right? And if people are not happy, it will always lead to, it can, not will always, but yes, it can lead to social and political change for the betterment. Okay, so these are some of the silent features of democracy. Now I want to look at a very important component of a democracy, that is participation. When you say rule of the people, it means the people are governing, right? Now, how are representatives chosen? They're chosen through elections, right? And then they run the government. So these are we have elections, representatives are chosen who run the government. So it is through elections that people are selected for public office, right? Now, it happens in every 5 years. Elections happen in every 5 years approximately, right? So it helps to keep check on the powers exercised by the representative. So, a representative knows that if I do not work for these people who got me elected, I won't be chosen for the next term, right? So it is keeping a check on their powers, right? And also, all citizens above 18 can vote, so everyone can participate, right? Everyone has a say, and participation grants the people the power to bring change if the government does not perform, right? So if you realize that this particular government is not performing, you can always change, you can always elect someone else, right? So this is about participation, but there are a lot of other ways also of participating, not only about elections and choosing representatives and forming decisions on whom to vote for the next tenure. Um, you know, People who criticize the government are also participating. They're taking initiative, right, into the happenings of the government. Then you have your debates. You have so many debates on televisions, right, wherein issues that what the government is doing, what they're not doing, what initiatives are being taken, if it's a right one or if it's a wrong one, right? They're very heated debates. If you ever watch any of these prime time or whatever debates that you have on television, and you would get to know so much things, perspectives of both sides, right? And also people protest or express their dissent through protest marches, call for buns, a lot of these other ways. So these are all ways in which people are participating. It is their democratic right, right? Next is public opinion. Now, what is public opinion? Public opinion is the aggregate of individual views and beliefs prevalent among the adult citizens, residents, right? What I mean by this is that so all the people, the aggregate, it's basically kind of an average estimation of the individual views and beliefs that are prevalent among the people, right? Now, public opinion can be expressed in a lot of ways in a democracy. You have bunds, you have rallies, you have strikes, you have signature campaigns, etc. I want you all to think about, if you've ever come across any buns or any, of any that happened, any kind of strike or rallies that you've ever heard of or know of. I would love to for you to think about it and come back with this in the next class in the Microsoft Teams, right? But this is about public opinion, right? Now, public opinion is generated by two very important through two very important places. One is role of media and the other is educational institutions. So currently, when even in my classes, or whenever we talk about any kind of any in any educational institute, right, we create the institutes create awareness, right, amongst the students. We talk about so many social issues, we talk about political issues, economic issues, right? So schools, colleges play a very important role in creating awareness amongst youth, right? So role of educational institute is paramount. Similarly, when I talk about role of media, right, you have newspapers, periodicals, magazines. Now they are very effective in generating social and political awareness, right? You have books, pamphlet, radio, television, cinema, in fact movies as well. You get to know so much about issues through movies, right? You have there are some very beautiful movies who draw light onto uh, some very important social and cultural issues, right? So you get to know, your knowledge increases, you know, manifold times through media, through different medias, different mediums, right? As well as through educational institutions. Now, conflicts. Now, students, this is a very interesting part, that is conflicts, right? Now, conflicts are central to any place, right? Any place having people will have conflicts because people have different needs, right? And needs keep on changing from time to time. They happen even in small houses. Imagine a country. It is bound to happen. Conflicts are bound to happen, right? So, whenever there is a danger to an individual or a group's interest, there is bound to be a conflict. Okay? So, whenever one person feels threatened or a group feels threatened, or it's something that they want, that, right, their interest is being harmed or hampered, right, there is bound to be a conflict, right? Now, sometimes people react violently as well to resolve these disputes. See, disputes are natural, they'll happen all over the world, right? But sometimes people do react violently as well. Now, this threatens the peace in the society. So, how does a democratic government resolve these conflicts, right? So, firstly, Constitution defines the laws to be followed by the center as well as for the states. Very beautifully, our Constitution tells that, these things are supposed to be made laws. The center will have rights for over these things, and over a separate thing of things. It's all beautifully listed, right? That, on these particular issues, states will have the right to make their own laws, right? To resolve differences in a situation of conflict. So a constitution has very definite laws, and very beautifully it is written on, how things can be resolved. But there are alternative to legal procedures as well, right? For example, negotiation, mediation, conciliation, right? Have the both parties on a same place, and negotiate with them. What is one willing to give up and what is the other not willing to give up? You can always mediate, you can conciliate, right? This is a life skill, not only for individuals but for the country as well, right? Now there is a very interesting Kaveri water dispute, right? That is there in your books as well. It talks about how the government, what is the government's role in resolving conflicts and disputes. Now, Kaveri River, there was recently in the past, there was a fight over sharing of water between Tamil Nadu and Karnataka, right? Over the river, over the water of Kaveri River. Now, there are two dams on this river as well, the Metur Dam and Krishna Raja Sagar Dam. Okay. Tamil Nadu complained that, Karnataka doesn't release enough water for irrigation, and the farmers in Tamil Nadu are not given enough. Karnataka says, we need enough for our people as well. We do not have enough. Now, both states did not relent, and they just refused to negotiate. Okay, because water is huge. You all know, nothing. People cannot survive without water, and this is very important, right? So both the states said that, we are just not ready to negotiate. Then what the government did, the government's initiative was that they set up a Kaveri water dispute tribunal, right? To ensure a fair distribution of water between the two states. Water tribunal, basically a committee wherein people were asked, these were high level dignitaries were assigned to look into the matter and have an unbiased opinion on what should be done and what needs to be done and where it is going wrong. So they set up a tribunal to ensure fair distribution of water between the two states. Now, need for equality and justice. Now, equality, students, is very important element, right? And according to the Constitution, everyone is equal in the eyes of law. Right? Everyone has equal status, and everyone should be given equal opportunities. Right? But how can we achieve this equality if we are not all equal in the first place? So we can only achieve equality if there is a just distribution of resources, right? Because equality and justice go hand in hand. You cannot just preach equality on the Constitution, right, in a book and say, we're equal in a country. No. Do people have equal resources? Do they have equal opportunities? Right? So we need a just distribution of resources. And therefore it is said that, equality and justice go hand in hand. Now government rigorously, keeps on promoting a lot of programs aimed at welfare, right? Now, for example, in Haryana, education for women till graduation level is free, right? For the underprivileged, practicing untouchability was banned, and a lot of special provisions like reserving positions in government jobs and educational institutions have been made for women, people belonging to the scheduled castes and the scheduled tribes, right? So that it ensures that these students have financial stability. These people have financial stability as well as equal status in the society. You have a lot of, so government comes up with a lot of scholarships. They come up with free education and a lot of other initiatives, so that these people get an equal status in the society, right? Now there's just one more case study. It's about the on the anti-apartheid movement, right? um, that was anti-apartheid movement was launched in South Africa, right? So it was launched by the black people of South Africa to fight against discrimination, racial discrimination. South Africa was students white ruled, right? In spite of being a country inhabited by Africans, it was white ruled, and from 1948 to 1994, right? So non-whites were discriminated. They were denied basic human and political rights, right? They were treated as second-class citizens in their own country. It was humiliating for them, right? They were treated as untouchables on their own land. Imagine how they might feel. Now, this policy of discrimination between whites and black was known as apartheid, right? It means apartness in African language. Now, this movement was led by Nelson Mandela. He was the leader of African National Congress, and he was also sent to prison for 27 years. In 1994, the people got their freedom, the South Africans got their freedom and the right to form their own government. Okay. Uh, so it was in 1994. Imagine, when did we have our first election? And back in 1950s, and these people in 1994, like just 20 years, no, not 20, 26 years back, right? They got for the first time their own right to held elections, right? So elections were held for the first time just about, say, 26 years back in South Africa. For the first time, people, all of them got an equal right to vote. It was the first mixed race government of South Africa, and both blacks and whites had equal rights to vote under law. Because both of them, so therefore we can say it is safe to say that principles of democracy were upheld. Right. On this happy note, thank you so much. I hope you understood the topics that we've talked about. We talked about democracy. We talked about participation in democracy. We talked about different ways public opinion is generated and expressed. The role of educational institutes, role of you know uh, media in forming public opinion, and we also talked about um, we talked about a case study of apartheid in South America. And lastly, we talked about the need for equality and justice. Right. So thank you so much. Have a nice day. Hope you understood. Let's meet again and discuss more on this in our virtual sessions. Thank you.